Welcome back, everyone. I hope all of you had an amazing session just now, especially on the both interesting topic. You guys had a better insight now. So now, moving on to our second session for today, entitled Twist on Debate, Toxic Workplace Culture in Healthcare. For this, I am honored to introduce our respective debaters and moderators for this session. First, I would like to introduce Dr. Tan Guo Jeng, who is an internal medicine specialist from UM. Dr. Tan Guo Jeng is working towards acute internal medicine subspecialty and PhD. Next, I would like to introduce Dr. Sean Thum, who is a Selangor representative for Malaysian Medical Association section concerning house officers, medical officers, and specialists. He is also a policy officer for Malaysian Health Coalition and also formerly a president of My Doctors. He is currently undergoing specialization in psychiatry. Next, I have Christal, who is a mindset coach and a founder of Waken Academy, which is a personal development online training program. Next, finally, we have our moderator for this segment today. We have Dr. Tee Chen Giap, a house officer. He is the co-founder of the Malaysian Philosophy Society, Malaysia's first NGO aiming to make philosophy practical for all Malaysians, and founder of Consultoid, an award-winning fully student-led peer learning platform. This is getting interesting. I'm already hyped. So let me pass this floor to our moderator. Over to you, our beloved Dr. Giap.
Thanks, Kavilan. Good to see you again. And thanks, MMI, for having me to moderate this session, especially when it's together with so many respected and well-known names. And I'm very happy to be here together with Christal, Sean, and Guo Jeng. For the purpose of today's debate, we've all agreed to just call each other by our first names to facilitate the discussion. And would also like to remind everyone here to be open-minded, critically minded, and of course, be respectful to one another, including our audience as well. So very quickly, I'll be explaining the format of today's debate. So all of our speakers here, they are not assigned to any particular side of the debate, unlike a traditional format. Instead, all of them will be presented with a statement alongside with a question. So each speaker will have 5 minutes to either agree or disagree with the prompts. And after all of the speakers have in turn given their thoughts, there'll be a 5 to 10 minutes of discussion time where all three of the speakers can have a back and forth to exchange their views and opinions. So without further ado, I would like to begin the debate by starting the first statement. So statement number 1, an overemphasis on respecting authority figures and partiality, and perhaps the hierarchical culture as well, have contributed to the current toxic workplace culture present in the Malaysian healthcare setting. It has become a norm among healthcare workers. This has been rationalized perhaps as a method to train junior doctors in hopes that they're able to adapt to a highly stressful working environment. So question number 1, should being harsh be allowed in the healthcare environment to give junior doctors a reality check about the hardships of being a doctor? So I would first like to invite Guo Jeng to begin.
Hi, good morning. I'm Guo Jeng from University Malaya. Excuse me. All right, so that's actually a very interesting question. And I think I would just split up my answer into 4 parts. Number 1, context. Number 2, the social contract. Number 3, is bullying okay? And 4, being rude. But I'll start with number 4, being rude. I think under no circumstances should being rude or racially discriminatory be permitted. So, some people, it's never permitted for someone call you like, hey, chinky boy, come here. It's never permitted. That's rude, and chinky is racist. All right, sepet, come here, or something like that. I under no circumstances should those things should be tolerated, and I do not think the Kementerian Kesihatan Malaysia or even Ministry of Education would tolerate any of these. So if any one of you have experienced any of these things, there are proper channels to go through it, and sometimes, unfortunately, the proper channels do fail. But if you report this to your head of department, you report this to the Pengarah Hospital, I don't think anyone would tolerate this kind of thing. So under no circumstances should there be rude or racism involved. Never, all those, there are certain things that, you can't there are some words we can't say that. That being said, the next thing I want to go talk about is actually context. So in this working environment, medicine is very high stress, and sometimes you're dealing with people's lives, and if it is in ONG, sometimes it's with two people's life, the mother and the child. And of course, I'll be first to admit that I lose my temper very often when things are not done, and so sometimes we just explode. It's like, and then like, why is the houseman didn't take this blood? Patient is going for OP, GXM not taken. How is this? The OP get cancelled and all that sort of thing. So sometimes context matters, and sometimes, you know, if you don't do your work, you can marah. Then sometimes, you know, you can. I think most of us are adult enough to differentiate. You know, specialists didn't do work, marah, and some people, it is a pattern among them. No matter whether you do your work or you don't do your work, they are just nasty. They just you know, attack personal statements. Oh, why your mother never teach you? Is it? Oh, okay. Another thing, also those are things are rude, and under no circumstances should all these things be. I think your specialist get angry at you is common enough in a high stress situation. But you know, if it goes into personal statement like, oh, your mother never teach you enough, is it? Your mother dropped you on the head as a kid, is it? So I think those things, it has gone into the line of being rude already, and those should not be tolerated. And I think maybe if you talk about house officers in my generation, we just suck it up, like, you know, hey, that's life. But maybe nowadays everyone is more educated. Everyone is, you know, we have a better understanding of how damaging all these statements can be. So I think it is well within your rights, and also to say, it's like, oh, boss, sorry lah, I don't think this is a very acceptable statement. And if they do not take this, then I think it's fair to take it to the head of department, the house officer thing. Okay. So context do matter, and I hope that, please don't complain, everyone that scolds you. If not, all the good specialists all get pechat and all, and then you might be left with something worse. So we do have to draw a fine line between, you know, okay, sorry, you know, this boss is usually nice, this boss usually teaches. So which leads me to the next thing, which is the social contract thing. So I think in medicine, it has always been a master apprentice sort of thing. So a lot of it is also came down from the army. So the original doctors were all actually in the army. That's especially the surgeons. So in the army, you are the recruit, you get berated. So even though medicine has been separated, we've gone into the universities already, but a lot of times, 150 years on, we still have our army roots. So, you know, my boss berated me, you know, now it's my turn to berate you. And then when your time comes, you will berate your juniors. Of course, we say we want to break the vicious cycle and all the cycle of violence. I said it in my time, like, I don't know, it's still not broken. So anyway, your generation probably might have better luck in trying to break this. But okay, so there is this social contract. I teach you, you do the donkey work. And I think that as long as, sometimes do not tolerate rudeness, do not tolerate you know, just plain bad behavior, you know, sexual harassment and all that sort of thing. But I think, you know, it's like, if you're learning, you're getting something out of it, then on and off, you know, we sort of, it comes with the game. But I don't think it should be a everyday Kanamara, you live in fear every day. And then it comes into the final part, we talk about hierarchy. So remember, it's just not only among doctors, sometimes nurses and house officers. So for everyone, most of you are medical students, house officers, are you nice to your nurses? And a lot of times you can tell a lot about a house officer, but you ask the nurse, hey, Kak, houseman, you percaya tak? Oh, tak percaya lah. Saya call dia pukul 2 pagi, patient BP low, houseman tak datang tengok. So sometimes before, maybe, you know, as you work towards a better life between you and your specialist, I think you should also be nice to your PPKs, to your nurses also, and also house officers versus house officers, be nice to each other. Can tell you, a lot of times, the most obvious is the specialist go to houseman or bullying, but a lot of times, I think most of the bullying happens between the house officer against the house officer. You know, you fast forward everything, you didn't do anything, you leave it for your friend to do. You take an emergency leave, everyone has to cover you at the last minute. I think a lot of all these things, a lot of times, I don't know who agrees with me, I can't see your faces, but I would think that a lot of house officers, a majority of stress comes from their fellow colleagues. So, so of course, yes, I work to be a better person, and you all work for better working conditions, but also be nice to each other.
Thank you, Guo Jeng, for your very, very interesting points. I would like to bring the stage to Christal now to give your thoughts. Yeah.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Christal. Before I start, I just want to say thank you to everyone for being here. Thank you so much for your time. And thank you to Malaysian Medics International as well for inviting me. It's an honor to be here. And also, I'd like to acknowledge my other two speakers. Dr. Tan Guo Jeng is actually one of my favorite lecturers back in University of Malaya when I was a medical student. And I remember working with Dr. Sean as well when he was a houseman in University of Malaya and I was just a medical student. So it's a great pleasure to be able to be here with my two esteemed colleagues that I highly respect. And also, I understand that this is called a debate. Even the word debate itself, it has a very competitive connotation to it. But I just want to make it clear that my intention for being here is not really to debate per se, but also to have a discussion. In fact, I feel like it's an important discussion to be had because toxic working culture is a national crisis. And I hope by the end of this discussion, we can find practical solution to be implemented in order to create a better and also safer working environment for everyone. So to answer the first statement, my answer is, I disagree that we should treat our juniors harshly or treat anyone harshly for that matter. Before I state my reason why, I just want to explain about the current situation that junior doctors are facing right now. First is, junior doctors are treated with disrespect and humiliation. They are subjected to scolding, verbal abuse, shouting, especially when they make mistakes. There's no constructive feedback, no teaching, no social support. And in some cases, this toxic behavior, it becomes like a habit for some of the senior doctors. It seems like a reflex to just lash out on these junior colleagues. And that's why we have this term called malignant doctors, because these doctors are known for this kind of behavior. They're known for imposing this behavior. And as a result, when a behavior is deeply embedded in a working environment, it becomes a culture. And when it becomes a culture, it becomes normalized. When it's normalized, we become blinded by it. Someone from the outside might be looking in and see how absurd it is, but us within the system, because it has been normalized, we become unaware of it because it's just everyday life. So the first reason why I disagree is first of the psychological impact that it has on junior doctors. First is mental health. So because they get scolded all the time, they become anxious to go to work. They are fearful about being reprimanded. They worry about the next bout of scolding instead of focusing more on improving their skills or about improving the patient's health. As a result, this affects their self-worth and in turn causes depression and also anxiety, like what we are seeing now. Second is it affects their work performance. So they become less confident and indecisive when performing work, when making a decision. And this affects patient treatment. It increases medical error. So we are doing a disservice not only to our juniors, but also to our patients as well, because everyone is affected. Third is, this is a toxic and also unhealthy behavior. You know, treating your colleagues or everyone or anyone rudely or harshly. Instead of giving constructive feedback, teaching them or giving social support, we are imposing aggression towards our juniors by treating them harshly. So human beings are social creatures. We need to remember that we are social creatures. We are biologically hardwired for social connection. In fact, it is our survival mechanism because without it, we will die. So we thrive in an environment with social support, where there's a sense of belonging, where there is support and knowing that someone is there for us when in times of hardship. So we don't need a reality check about the hardships of being a doctor. What we need is a healthy and also positive working environment with support, team collaboration, friendship, unity, love, compassion. We should enforce this culture in our workplace, especially among doctors who work as a team. Because many research has already shown that the biggest indicator to happiness is social connection. So when there is social connection, there is happiness in the society. And when there is happiness in the society, there is an increase in work performance. So it's a win-win situation for everyone. So now, let's look at it from a different angle, from a more philosophical lens. Different generations may have different opinions about whether to give harsh treatment or not, due to the incongruence in the moral zeitgeist, meaning difference in the moral perception of a certain era. So older generations would probably agree that yes, using harsh treatment is necessary to educate younger ones, to toughen them up, to build resilience, because this model was taken from the World War era. Leaders from post-war would return home after serving World War II, and then they'd bring this militarized mindset to the workplace. Because on the battlefield, there's no place for feelings. A soldier just has to follow orders, to follow their leaders. And that's how a pseudo-military culture was ingrained in our workplace. You know, in schools and organizations, we use this top-down authoritarian manner. On the other hand, more recent, newer generations would disagree that we should treat our colleagues harshly. And one of the reasons could be seen from this theory called the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's this pyramid model. So it's a theory proposed by an American psychologist called Abraham Maslow, and it shows the universal stages of motivation that humans have to go through. So in older generations back then, most of them live in the lowest rung of the hierarchy ladder, which is the physiological need. So they live in survival mode. It was a time of war, everyone lived in scarcity. They were just trying to get by. So they don't have the capacity to think about themselves, about self-esteem, about self-worth, self-actualization, or transcendence, you know, those at the lower top of the hierarchy. So we need to use methods that are relevant to our current time, using the best solution to increase work productivity. And at the same time, does not harm others, but help them grow into their fullest potential. So thank you.
Thank you, Christal, for your very interesting and thoughtful points. Next, can we have Sean on stage? Thank you.
Hello everyone. First of all, I would like to thank MMI for involving me in this debate. It's lovely to meet Tee Chen Giap, Christal, GJ, and also all of you here. Happy to represent the Malaysian Health Coalition as one of its policy officers, and also MMA's SCOMOS to add a little perspective to the topic that we are discussing today, which covers the workplace culture in healthcare. Let's go to the question. Should being harsh be allowed in healthcare environment to give junior doctors a reality check? Short answer is no. Full stop, no. But since this is a debate, let's set the parameters and definition. Sorry for taking this very traditionally, but yeah. So anyway, according to Oxford Learner's Dictionary, right, it means being harsh means 4 things: cruel, severe, and unkind, very difficult or unpleasant to live in, unpleasant to look at or listen to, and lastly, too strong and rough and likely to change, damage something. Does it sound daunting? Yes, it does. And I wouldn't want to wish an unkind life like this to anyone, let alone junior doctors who are still finding their feet in this fraternity. So there is a need actually to create a working environment which is conducive for the learning process without compromising the physical, mental, and social well-being of our doctors. I'll utilize Guo Jeng's point here about the master-student relationship here. Each member of the team will have specific roles to play. The seniors will do certain jobs, which includes teaching the juniors. The juniors have a separate job scope. But can we be educational without raising our voices? Yes, we can. Can we be educational without resorting to disparaging, demeaning, also racially charged remarks? Yes, we can. So I reiterate my response. No, being harsh should not be allowed in healthcare. Christal mentioned that the various negative effects of doctors being treated harshly, and I agree wholeheartedly. There are plenty of research done that's noted that doctors who are recipients of such harsh treatments will face a lot of challenges physically, mentally, and so their social well-being. So it must not be normalized at all. However, it does exist, and therefore it should be reported, and a no-tolerance policy is in place, must continue to be in place. I used to be part of MMI, and back in 2018, MMI actually came out with this campaign called Cure the Culture. Back in 2018, there was a very highly publicized case where there were an issue of harassment. At the time we had a very focused events, and in 2018, one is called Ganggu, which addressed that issue of harassment itself. But this is just one of those things that were voiced out, and it was brought to public consciousness, brought to the public's attention. Well, I don't have numbers, but I can say, I can tell from personal experience that there are many other cases which are buried under the fear of repercussions. Now, if it happens, there must be safeguards to protect our whistleblowers, because this should not be allowed to go on, should not be allowed to exist in a healthcare setting. So once again, no, being harsh should not be allowed in the healthcare setting. I'll pass the time back to Giap.
Thank you, Sean. And right, I would like to take a small pause here just to remind everyone, especially our audience, feel free to post questions, your thoughts in the chat box, and I'll bring them up towards the end, because we have allocated time for Q&A, where you can interact with the speakers as well through your questions. So please do that in the chat box. Yeah, thanks. So we've heard thoughts from all three of our speakers. They've all been very well explained in the very short 5 minutes. So what's going to happen now is going to have a group discussion on everyone's thoughts. So just do it. We can do it in a free flow way. Anyone want to begin? You can address each other's points. Yes, Guo Jeng, you want to start?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm muted.
Okay. Yeah. So, you know, they were just talking about the McNeilon ones. I think most of our points agree. Yeah. It's like the McNeilon ones are the ones that, you know, good day, bad day, good mood, bad mood, work done, not done. Also, they just find some reason, and sometimes they nitpick that. So, but as McNeilon as those people are, when let's say their friends' children or their boss's children come in as the house officer in the ward, suddenly they are this paragon of it's very, very obvious. So, like, you know, on one hand, it's like, if you are houseman A, suddenly, boss's daughter is in, and like, hi, I hope you're learning a lot today. So, unfortunately, this is a thing in medicine because a lot of no offense to all the doctors' kids that are in the audience, a lot of doctors' kids become doctors, and again, it all boils down to the ancient master apprentice. Even in the Hippocratic Oath, I'm supposed to teach my teachers' children for free, sort of thing, if they so wish to learn the art of medicine. So there is always a tendency to treat people differently. I know in this day and age, everyone should be treated equally and all, but it does happen lah. Again, also there's a lot of expectations, like, I expect you to be able to do these 2 procedures patients and all that sort of thing. And depending on, Malaysian Medical Council recognizes any university. If you have 2 legs, you call yourself a university, also they recognize your medical degree. So and when you come back, unfortunately, because you are recognized by MMC, you paid good money, you go there, you expected a good education, whatever they taught you to have prepared you. But the Malaysian, again, is a cultural thing. So I remember I read an article about what happened in Penang, and they interviewed some of the students, and they said that, a certain university with 2 syllables that I work in and from, their students are treated better. And in a sense, they are treated better because most of the specialists and consultants in that hospital are from that university. So there is my junior, so I must treat my junior better. So there is one already. That's the social networking part. Number 2 is because that particular university teaches to what is expected. It's so easy. I learn from, let's say I study in this university, they teach me this what's expected. So when I become a specialist, I also expect this from the people that, from my juniors. And then who are the people that can fulfill this requirement? The people who so happen to be coming from my alma mater. And then, so again, it's different expectation. You go to a university, it may be the most prestigious university in the world, but if their syllabus does not prepare you for whatever is expected, it's like, you're gonna hey, how come you cannot do this? You know, in university XXX, you know, they all can do it. Why can't you? All these things. So again, a lot of all these things to come about. Yeah.
I think. Sorry, Sean, want to say something?
No, Christal, go ahead.
Go ahead, Christal. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the problems with malignant doctors is actually a leadership problem, because in medicine, when it comes to like who is the leader, it's usually those at the top of the medical career ladder. Like the consultant or the specialist would be the HOD or the director, for example. Because in politics or in companies, how a leader is elected is based on the majority. So they will elect based on certain criteria. But in the hospital, the higher you go up the medical career ladder, the higher chance of you becoming a leader, even though you may not necessarily have the leadership skills. So that's why it's called leadership skills, because it is a skill. A skill is something that is acquired, you learn. You are not naturally born with it. And I think one of the suggestions that I'm thinking about is to have a leadership training or leadership coaching program for, those at the top of the medical ladder, or those leaders in departments or in the hospitals, because we do this in business companies, in corporates. So I think we should start implementing this in the hospital as well, because the role of a leader is very important. Especially as doctors, we work as a team. So the leader is the one that infuse the team with purpose. They should lead with example. They should ensure high team morale and make sure that everyone is being reminded of the core values and also what purpose they stand for. So for me, like, a great leader is someone who constantly wants to evolve themselves, in terms of personal development, who wants to grow, evolve, and also helps others to do the same. Yeah. And also another thing about having expectations. You understand that when like housemen enter the workforce, I think it's a flawed fallacy to think that we should expect too much from them, especially when they are new to the working culture. They are new to working environment, new to working culture. They need time to adapt to the pace of the environment. And the thing is, we expect them to know everything. We just throw them into the unknown, expect them to know everything, fend for themselves. Sometimes they feel very alone and isolated, having to do the work themselves because there's no proper social support or social connection. And another thing that I'm suggesting or thinking about is having an induction program for this houseman, because in other companies, they have this induction program for new employees before entering the companies, and usually it's the HR manager who is in charge of it. So induction program is meaning that they have proper training before entering the workforce, so that they are equipped with the necessary skills before they start working. And also proper training in terms of, first is theoretical skills and also practical skills. So theoretical skills is like taking history, for example, because I understand that different medical schools, they have different ways of doing this. They have they use different medical terms. They have different common diseases. And I think that this induction program would be a good way for us to standardize the whole system according to the local hospital setting. So yeah.
What do you think about that, Sean?
Christal? Yeah, I mean, these are really great points. But of course, when it comes to the civil service, when you think of wanting to set up a program, then you have to think about cost, you have to think about time, resources.
Yeah.
I think this question will be better answered by actually someone working in the hospital administration. But of course, these are really great points. But I want to touch on one point that you mentioned just now, expectations, because our expectations will play a very important role in how our response to a certain thing. So let's say if I'm expecting things to go bad, right, and if it goes well, it actually will make things easier for us.
Yeah, it's a bonus.
Yeah, but then the question comes in here: should we all expect housemanship to be really bad? Should we all expect housemanship to be relentless period of training and where you cannot have time to go makan, cannot have time to go and go to the toilet even? The answer is actually no, we should not be doing that. The structure of housemanship, right, is for people to learn. Keyword here, learn. I'll come back to that later. And learning can only be best conducted through conducive environments. I mean, GJ is a lecturer. You should. I don't know what you think about this, but I would like to have your opinions later. But learning is best when you are comfortable, you are able to absorb things properly. You go into work with a fresh mind. You have enough sleep the night before, then you come in here. So structure of training should be actually improved slightly. And just rounding back to the topic of learning, you need to think of two things. The first thing is that learning is lifelong, and it's not just for house officers. It's also for, say, medical officers, specialists itself. If you turn the tables around, would a specialist going their subspecialty training be able to learn as conducively if they were in the same situation as house officers, don't have time to do this, don't have time to do that, or just overwhelmed with work? I'm sure the answer is no. The other way is that it's a job to actually teach and train house officers or junior doctors itself. So this has to be ingrained, and teaching and training, again, best done in a conducive environment. Right.
Thanks, Sean. Guo Jeng, just want to check with you. Anything you want to add on to thoughts?
I think the thing is, teaching, it's not everyone's cup of tea. Even if you talk to a certain institution that certain people work for, a lot of people, they are here to learn surgery and learn their subspecialty. I'm not here to teach you. Some people have that attitude. But that being said, where a certain institution that I so happen to work for, we realized that there is a problem with the difference in training. So we've tried with a pilot project of a house officer training course where basically we do all the basic stuff things if let's say the patient's BP drop, what would you do and all that sort of thing. Yeah, so that's but that being said, it's sad to say that not a lot of people enjoy teaching. Yeah.
Those are very valid points. Yeah. Sean, yeah, you can wrap up.
No, I mean, yeah. I think teaching is going to be part of. I mean, traditionally, the job of a doctor is, again, as what GJ mentioned just now, more of a master-student kind of relationship. So when a master teaches a student is expected, say, in time to actually gain enough experience, knowledge, and to pass knowledge on. Because if you don't, then there is going to be a gap, and then this knowledge is going to go to waste, going to be discarded. So I think all of us who are practicing medicine do need to remember that we are all actually teachers too, and we all have to make it part of our training, and carry it forward in the training of our juniors, because it's very important. So just come back to the topic: being harsh, not allowed, should not happen, and we should make it as conducive as possible for our juniors to learn.
Great points there. Interestingly, if you trace back the etymology of a doctor, it traces back to a teacher. So doctors are teachers from the origin of the word. So something to think about as well. So without further ado, statement 2, interesting round 1. So statement 2, even though there's a flexible system implemented back in 2019, junior doctors in Malaysia are still forced the word there. Are still required to work up to 75 hours a week. The working hour is even longer during the tagging period, during housemanship, where we have to work up to 100 hours for the 2 weeks of tagging. So it has resulted in medical errors, compromising patient safety, what our speakers have talked about, and jeopardizing the general well-being of doctors as well. So question 2, is burnout both mentally and physically the main factor that contributes to many doctors quitting medicine, including housemanship and the master's training program? So I would like to invite Guo Jeng again on stage.
You can invite someone else, but I don't mind starting. It's like, it doesn't have to be me. Okay, just a statement about this. If a lot of older people, old folk, not me I try not to be old folky. I try not to use terms like in my time, pada zaman dahulu, once upon a time when I was a houseman. I try not to use this statement because I know that my own MO pakar would say the same thing. Nowadays houseman nowadays all cannot perform, blah blah blah. Same nonsense that they say about, and then it's like, yeah, like, oh my goodness, I become like them. But I just want to make a statement about the length of hours to work. Sometimes it's not about the length of hours. I think in some hospitals it's very strictly enforced. In University Malaya, at least, it's very strictly enforced that you are not allowed to work beyond that hours. In terms of the tagging, that one, this one, a lot of people disagree on this. I don't think there's a hard and fast rule, but going home at 1 o'clock and coming back at 5 o'clock the next day shouldn't be acceptable, even if during the tagging period. But that being said, I have to use the term, in my time, there were 3 house officers in the ward, and we do not, the thing is, paradoxically, even though we work longer hours, our workload is actually less intense. Why is that less intense? Because there's always 3 house officers in the ward. So even if there are 50 patients in the ward, you're only dividing 50 divided by 16. So, but the thing is, if you are on call that day, you have to come in the morning. You go for your on-call from 5 p.m. to 8 a.m. the next day. And then the next day, you're back in the ward from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m. So the thing is, the ward has always got 3 people on any one time. So we all pandai lah. Again, boils down to having great colleagues. If you've got lousy colleagues, your housemanship is hell. It doesn't matter if your specialist is the nicest person in the world, never expose you, you got bad colleagues. So people will work around that. Oh, your post-call today. Okay, you go down and request scans. I'll do the blood taking, and housemancy will. So there's actually 3 pair of hands in the ward. Now, if because of the shift system now, certain hospitals, they got a lot of people. You got 9 people per ward, so you got 3 housemen per shift. Excellent. But some of the, I don't know if any one of you from a further hospital, not all hospitals are like Hospital Putrajaya, 9 house officers in 1 ward. So a lot of hospitals are 4 house officers in 1 ward, 3 house officers in 1 ward. And to make the shift system work and not to be overworked, you don't go beyond your 75 hours. What happens is you're left with 1 person taking care of the 20-30 patients. So now we have 50 patients divided by 3, so it's 16 per person. Now there's only 20 patients in your ward, but you are 1 person taking care of that 20-25 patient. And now, of course, your special account. In my time, we have 50 people. We have 50 housemen. Yeah, you also have 2 other housemen to help you. I'm alone. So you're 1 person. The specialists expect you to follow the rounds. And then the scan, but when you're following the specialist rounds, the scans are not done. Okay, no one is requesting the scans. You go down at 12 o'clock to request the scans. Everyone has already requested scans. The list is full for the day. So all you're going to get is rejected, and you go back to the ward, you get another round because why all your scans get rejected? Because I can only come down at 11, 12 o'clock. Why? Because everybody wants me to follow their rounds. So what do you want me to do? And then specialists are like, hey, can you take blood stat for this patient? Oh, if I take blood stat for this patient, I can't go down already. So the problem is there's only 1 person because everyone is on the shift. So it becomes very, very intense. So even though you work 70, okay, what's the latest one? I don't know, 70 hours, but your 70 hours is very intense every day. Whereas for the pada zaman dahulu people who always tell us about, oh, we used to be able to fly and jump across the lakes and everything. Yeah, we actually had more people on hand on board. So patient collapse, you have CPRing. There's another 2 person that can actually go request scan and work still gets done. If you're the only house officer in the ward, 1 patient collapse, you're CPRing, setting line. That's it. End of story. Nothing gets done. Afternoon, everyone comes back. Hey, why all the work not done? Because you have 1 person had to do everything. And nurse will come in. Hey, doctor, katil bed 25, beranilah dah bang lah, boleh tak tolong saya? Sejak pagi tadi, IV antibiotic tak bagi lagi. Yeah, that's my 2 cents. But sometimes it's not about the duration that you have to work. It is the intensity that's worked.
Very relatable points there, Guo Jeng. Thanks for bringing them up. So perhaps Sean, you want to have a go at this time? Then we'll ping Christal in.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm very privileged to actually experience life as a house officer who had to do on-call shift, and then we moved to flexible shift system. During my time, you use this word again, right? What happened was that we had a large number of house officers. So at the time, to enforce the system, my hospital actually brought in a lot of house officers. So in terms of the issue that Guo Jeng mentioned just now, we didn't have. So we managed to have an abundance of house officers taking care of patients. But I am aware that with the change of times and also with house officers not choosing to go to certain hospitals, the house officers pool is considerably lesser, and therefore we come up with situations where there are not enough house officers in certain places. Why this is the case? Because some places, some places have a reputation, and people choose not to go there. This leads the amount of house officers in the area becoming lesser, and this is where you have that lah. Okay, but yeah, we're just going to come to this one. So we mentioned about ganggu just now, right? This topic is something that has been here for a long time. 2019, MI doctors, through the Cure the Culture campaign, we actually organized an event called Terbakar, which is burning, so it's about burnout. Back to the debate roots, WHO defines burnout as syndrome conceptualized as resulting from chronic workplace stress not successfully managed. That is not like the previous question. This question has no short answer. The answer actually focused on question: is burnout the main factor contributing to many doctors quitting medicine? And we're going to set the parameters to public service in Malaysia. And I'll answer in this way: in any job, there are pull and push factors. So there are factors pushing you out from organization A, and there must be factors pulling you into organization B. What are the push factors causing people to leave public service of Malaysia? Many. Don't have an exhaustive list, but these are some of the issues that we would be aware over the past few years. We begin with the demands made during Code Black in 2021. Give you a bit of statistics. There are 2,000 over contract doctors who quit the service between 2017 and 2021. They were demanding for clear specialization pathway, transparent criteria for permanent posts, equal treatment for contract permanent staff, also job security for all doctors. You'll notice the term burnout did not explicitly feature. However, will the anxiety surrounding an uncertain future lead to stress? Yes. Will disparity in terms of treatment face contract versus permanent staff cause stress? Yes. Over here, I need to commend the government for actually taking steps to resolve the issue, which was announced during the town hall with MMA last February. But we are not done with the push factors yet. Part of the push factors include what the DG tweeted in 2019: underfunded, understaffed, underpaid, overworked, overstretched, overcrowded with patients. Now, these ones you can make a direct link with anxiety, stress, with these kind of things. These things can cause stress. But before I close the segment also, we need to address the elephant in the room, which are the pull factors too. Imagine ourselves working in a place where you're working long hours, you are actually having a lot of stress, and you're actually a very intense place. And then you look at your friends who are working in a different organization, which actually gives you better work hours, better remuneration, a more balanced life in general. Would you be interested in, which one would you be more interested in going to? What about a place with a well-designed career pathway for you? So imagine back in 2020, 2021, you are a contract doctor, and at that moment in time, you are sure what's going to happen. But if you can stay in the government within the next few years. So at that moment in time, there are a lot of unpleasant emotions floating around, and that caused things to look that bad. So the question asked, is burnout the main factor? I would say no, but it is a factor nonetheless and has to be addressed. Giap, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you, Sean, for your insights. Christal?
Okay, so in my personal opinion, I really think and I agree that burnout is the main factor for most of this quitting medicine. Currently, Malaysia is facing a huge brain drain crisis due to unconducive working environment in the country. And according to a news article, it says that more than 1,700 government doctors have resigned over the last 4 years. 514 contract medical officers resigned from their posts from January to November 2021 last year. And the big reason for this is because the change of the hiring system, as Sean mentioned, from permanent to contract system, where benefits are being cut off, salaries reduced, they're not even eligible for specialization training. Now, how is burnout causing doctors to quit their medical career? First is the long working hours. So this has been a problem for so many years. As mentioned in the statement itself, doctors are still forced to work up until 75 hours per week and up to 100 hours during tagging period. And that is 2 times more than the average 9 to 5 employee. So let's look at a typical work hour of a houseman. So tagging is 6 a.m. until 10 p.m. That is 16 hours. Morning shift is 6 a.m. until 5 p.m. That is 11 hours. Extended morning shift is 6 a.m. until 9 p.m. That is 15 hours. And then PM shift is 8 p.m. until 9 a.m. That is 14 hours. So they have 1 off day per week, 8 annual leaves per posting, and 2 MC or EL per posting. So we've been told before we started housemanship during PTM that the work duration limit is only 14 hours. But this, unfortunately, this is not the case in reality because juniors tend to exceed it. So what I'm suggesting is that we need to start reforming the healthcare system, especially when it comes to being strict with the given working hours. Because for me, it's a human right for employees to work within the given duration, and we shouldn't exploit or abuse their labor. They should be protected by the law, by Labor Act, for example. The employees shouldn't be treated like commodities, like productivity machines. We shouldn't be inspired by doctors who have no other choice but to sacrifice themselves into martyrdom because, sacrifice their health, their social life, their relationships. Instead, we should start being inspired by doctors who are willing to take care of themselves first, who prioritize their own well-being so that they are fully optimized to serve others, their colleagues, and also their patients, because now they are being the best version of themselves. So we also need to understand that human beings are biologically wired for sleep, for rest, and also for work. So sleep deprivation and exhaustion can affect overall well-being. It affects not only individual themselves, but also the people that they serve, their colleagues, their patients. So when the work time is up, when it's time for housemen to leave home, they should just hand over their work. Even if the work is incomplete, they must justify why. And then hand over the work and then go home on time. But if the same person is not performing well, if the same person is the one that's always slacking off and then putting all the work to other people, then we should investigate. Because everyone should be held accountable for their own actions and no one is left behind. But instead of jumping straight into conclusion, criticizing and blaming others, we should investigate the case first. We need to see if there's any merit and then take the necessary steps and action to tackle the issue. And then the second reason how burnout can happen in the workplace is because of the environment itself. So as we discussed earlier, is the toxic work culture due to the harsh treatment. And then second is the non-conducive work environment in terms of the facilities itself in the hospital, especially government hospital. The facilities are very outdated. So this can affect quality of work. There are insufficient computers and medical equipments. Computers and softwares are old, they tend to lag and break down, there's poor Wi-Fi connection. And then the third reason how they can cause burnout is because of disempowerment at work, because of lack of control. Juniors have lack of control when it comes to, first is their future. And one of the evident reason that we can see is the change in the hiring system. There's not enough permanent placement for everyone. Even the health Director General Noor Hisham, he said that the number of contract doctors are growing every year. Now there are about 30,000 and more than 6,000 have applied to only fill 3,000 and 1,100 vacancies. So only half of that could be filled. And then next is work. Juniors have to work in unpredictable circumstances. Juniors, they have to be shoved in many different directions, in many different places just to fill a job scope, whether it's to cover an absent colleague or because there's not enough people to cover the job or because of emergency. So when they work in unpredictable circumstances, they lack a sense of control. And as a result, this causes more stress and in turn causes depression and anxiety. And I believe that with the proper system and management in place, this actually could be avoided. So thanks.
Thanks, Christal. Okay, right. Group discussion. Anyone wants to give it a go? Sean, do you want to elaborate more on the pooling factors where you ended earlier? how we can perhaps improve on that?
Yeah, I mean, push and pull lah. So pulling factors is, if you look at somewhere else, they offer you better workplace benefits. Then you may be more keen to go there. Of course, it's different for everybody. So some people they may value, say, family time more important, and perhaps the current, perhaps the civil service are not able to offer them that, because I just made some calculations. In some certain hospitals where there are a lack of medical officers, for example, these people have to be on call twice a week. And twice a week usually means one on weekday and one on weekend. What happens to those people who want to be on call 3 times a week, right? That's going to be difficult. Twice a week means you'll be on call you'll be working for 84 hours per week. And that means, you're going to be totally exhausted when you reach home. And then when you are at home, you may not have the time to do things that you want with your kids, with your spouse. It's going to impact a person in terms of their well-being. Yeah. So well, I mean, burnout itself is a factor, and there are a lot of things that are associated with it. What does GJ or Christal think?
I have another thing to add about burnout, because we hear a lot of news about too many medical schools, mushrooming, too many medical graduates graduating every year, but we are still facing burnout in the healthcare system. Currently, there are 34 public and private medical schools. Approximately 5,000 medical graduates are churned out in Malaysia annually. And housemanship, there's 6 intakes every year. So 1,000 housemen per intake. There's a total of 6,000 housemen per year. But why are we still being overworked, overburdened? I think one of the reasons is because of the system itself. There's no communication between what happens at the ground level, at the hospital level, and also at the administrative level. I feel like there's a clear misappropriation of doctors into certain departments or into the hospital. So I think we need to create a system where there is clear communication between those at both levels, so that sufficient doctors can fill in the workload in respective departments and also hospitals. Yeah.
This is part of the planning problem lah. So the communication, I think too many agencies working on this. I mean, we can say, for example, because the intake of housemen is not the same one, It's like sometimes it can be like January, then they skip 2 months, go to March, then skip 3 months, go to June, So they're trying to synchronize it. They're trying to make it more standardized, to plan it more organized lah. But if it's like if it's not organized, and then people come in, people leave, then you may have a vacuum there sometimes. It's going to be difficult. And within hospitals itself, people leaving different postings will also cause this kind of problem, because some people will leave early, some people will leave later. Then sometimes you have a vacuum, sometimes you have overload. Planning can be done better. One thing that, say, the United States is doing is that July 1st is the intake day. So would that work in Malaysia? We don't know, because we haven't planned that yet. And also,
what do you think, Guo Jeng? Oh, all right. Sorry. Yeah.
Sean, you finish first.
That's something. So we have a lot of medical schools, a lot of graduates, but there's a bottleneck in terms of entering. So in terms of there's a position, lack of positions. So because no position, you cannot fill the place, and then therefore you get the bottleneck. The actual people working is just X number, just that little. Guo Jeng?
I actually, back in the old days, sorry, just the old days, just because people used to finish and then they come in. Now they take everyone in at one shot, and everyone goes into the hospital at one shot, and then they leave the posting at one shot. So what happens every time when there's a rotation, more or less people will be rotating at the same time, because they all came at the same time. So if you're in surgical, you come in surgical the same time, you leave surgical the same time. And then everyone will go into a new department. Every house officer is a noob, and everyone is just a big headache for everyone, because everyone is trying to learn the ropes on the first day of work. So back then, because the intake used to be throughout the year, so if UM used to finish their exams in March, so by April they start work The waiting period was less. You get your letter from the day of graduation, 2 weeks later, you get your letter already. This was the old days. So this was 15 years ago. There is no time to rest. So people will, you graduate in March, you take your finals, the results are coming in March, April, you already get your letter to go into work. Then people will come back from UK and all. So throughout the year, there will be multiple intakes. So at any one time, there will be always some senior guys overlapping. So again, you all don't have issues about new guys. So you in the department, and at any one time in the department, you have someone who's 3 months into their posting, 2 months into posting, first day they're posting, first month in the posting. So everyone leaves at a different time. So again, it's a failure. I have to agree that it's a failure of planning. So they only like, oh, we take everyone in one shot, and then everyone goes in one shot, and then they always put medical as first posting. So medical, for a certain period of time, there will be like 70, 80 house officers. Then towards the end of the year, because all that 70, 80 have already finished their posting, and then we are left with 20, 30 house officer, and then 20, 30 are forced to do the work of 70, 80. So some people, oh, I have wonderful experience in medical. And then there'll be another group who say, I'm never going to do medicine. I don't want to be a physician ever. But no matter how much we say, like in the old days, housemen nowadays got so good life and all. If you're gonna ask me, will I do the housemanship in this day and age with your limited working hours and not the best, but better working conditions slightly? I would say no. Nobody will repeat. Your specialists will say, oh, housemen nowadays so pampered. Then you ask them, hey boss, you want to do a housemanship again or not? You want to do a housemanship in this time and age? Nobody wants to do it. Nobody will want to do it. It's a horrible experience. People still get PTSD from their house officer. 2 years of my life I blocked off my 2 years. You ask me what happened in that time frame. I know I was doing something lah. I know I was doing my housemanship lah. Whether how did that 365 days go? Nobody remembers it. One, you just blocked it off. Yeah, I remember more memories from my Form 6 days than from my housemanship. Let's put it that way. Yeah, and housemen nowadays, the uncertainty of their life is very uncertain. Nobody wants to go through that.
Thanks for putting that into perspective, Guo Jeng. All right, very quickly, we have to move on to the next segment. I was told by the organizers we were quite short on time. So very quickly, statement 3. Adding on to the second statement, on top of the heavy workload, long working hours, and low job security that we mentioned, many doctors are also suffering from mental illness, such as burnout, which is mentioned, depression, and some even have suicidal ideations, like the recent news as well. So, do you think, question 3, do you think the government and the public hospitals administration are doing enough to protect the well-being of doctors? Perhaps for this, I'll invite Christal first.
Yeah, so my answer for statement 3 is I disagree that the government is doing enough for the well-being of doctors. First is because, as we've discussed in length earlier, it's about the toxic work culture. This thing has been going on for so many years. We heard about it. In fact, we even normalize it. We always say like, oh, this is just how it is. That's just how doctor life is, Nothing much has changed over the past few years. There's lack of compassion in the workplace still, no empathy. No one wants to listen and understand, straight jumping into conclusions. Now we are hearing a lot of harassment. Harassment can be in many forms: verbal, mental, emotional, physical, sexual, bullying. But despite this problem being an open secret, no transformative measures are being implemented. And then second is in terms of future uncertainties, like we discussed earlier as well. The change of the hiring system, benefits being cut off, contract doctors have not enough permanent placement. And the country is suffering from the implication. Thousands of government doctors have resigned. 514 contract medical officers also resigned. And this leaves doctors feeling rather hopeless in their careers. There's no control over the future. And also the third one being the long working hours. Still forced to work up until 75 hours, even tagging up until 100 hours per week. Some tagging period can also reach up until 1 month, especially when specialists or MO are too busy to do, assessment. So HO has to always chase after their bosses. So this can be quite a hassle for everyone. But I think the problem here is there's just no proper system and timing in place for everyone to sit down and do an assessment at the proper time. So some of the things that I was thinking how we can tackle this is, first, as I mentioned, is the induction program. So we need to look into the budget also. We can give suggestion or recommendation for Ministry of Health to try to implement this, set a budget for this, and also reform the healthcare system in terms of the working hours as well. We need to be more strict with the given working hours, because I believe it is a human right for us not to exploit the labor of our employees. And then lastly is we need to set a healthy working culture. So solutions, it doesn't necessarily have to only be something physical or something tangible. It can also be something intangible, like work culture. So how I see it is we can divide healthy work culture into 3 levels. So first is individual level, collective level, and then also leadership level. So in every of these levels, the most important key ingredient here is core values. So at an individual level, everyone has to be aware about what are their core values, because their core values are the principles that govern their everyday life. They are the moral codes of an individual. They help in our decision-making process every day. So we need to be aware about our core values and are we living a life that is aligned to them? Because in order to make a transformative change at a collective level, it has to first start at the most fundamental level, which is the individual level. So be the change you want to see. There's a quote we usually hear. And then next is the collective level. So collective level is because everyone plays a huge role in setting a healthy work culture. It's not only the leaders. So everyone has to work together and build a culture where there is social connection. There is friendship, teamwork, team collaboration, there's psychological safety. So people feel safe to open up and be vulnerable and share about their struggles and not being, left out. And then lastly is at the leadership level. So as I mentioned, another suggestion that we can do is to do leadership training, because I believe that leadership plays a huge role, especially in a big organization or big team like in the hospital. So leaders are the one that sets the tone for the whole team or the whole culture. So whether a leader is good or bad, the effect will trickle down to those below them. So yeah, so those are my points.
Thanks, Christal. On this, Sean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, very interesting. I just actually Googled what the core values of KKM, right? And then apparently different hospitals got different core values, but revolves around the similar themes, so caring, service, professionalism, work, and also what they call it, excellence, process of excellence. Now, okay, we come to this topic, and I'll just put it this way: there are always things that we can do better to address the welfare of doctors, because circumstances change, and we will have to adapt. Well-being is a keyword, and of course, definition again, WHO defines health as state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, not merely the absence of disease. And because this is a very big topic to dissect here, because there are 3 components to talk about, and I will try to exploit here. Just now previously you mentioned about whether a doctor is able to take time to go makan, take time to go and rest, take time to go and use the toilet. I bring this up because at times, right, you will be seeing posts on social media saying that some people are too busy to do this, too busy, no time to go to the toilet. Or if you ask anyone in the healthcare fraternity, they will tell you, while your patients are important, you yourself are also even more important. And this is where self-care comes in. Because if your body collapses, right, there will be nobody else here to take care of the patient. I'm sure if you ask any senior doctors, they will tell the juniors to make sure they have a good meal during meal times. And please make sure that you eat, or make sure you have enough rest, because self-care is very important. But don't spend 2 hours and lunch. I think Christal mentioned something on similar vein to this. If a person needs time out, yes, please take it. But if a person is consistently taking time out or consistently underperforming, then maybe you have to investigate. You have to say what is going on, why is this happening. So have a quick 15 minutes meal, then go back to work if you're busy. I'm sure everyone is going to allow you to do that. A quick toilet break, 5 minutes, nobody is going to say you can't go to the toilet. You need to take care of yourself. I'm sorry, I veered off topic a bit, but physical health is something very important when you do this. Mental well-being, very important also, because it ties in with the workload, ties in with resources available. Again, Christal already mentioned about this. If your hospital is able to provide all these kind of services, your radiological service, like what Gigi mentioned, you go and if the service is so good, you have a lot of machines, a lot of radiologists, and you say, hey, I want to have this CT scan done stat, and then they can just tell you, okay, good, stand, no problem. Then everybody's work is going to be easier. You're going to report, and then your boss is going to be very happy, and you generally will have a good cordial working culture. Also, if workplace is filled with many workers and the staff are all in place, a lot of times we may say that, hey, we got a lot of doctors around. However, some people are on call, some people post call, some people just not there. If we can have everyone playing their role well and is well equipped with things that we need, and the team has a professional, I think cordial may not be a right word. Professional should be the baseline. You would be happy to go to work. And the social part is very interesting. So are we able to address the needs of our doctor's life? Is the salary enough for a doctor to live comfortably? If the doctor have to do two works, two jobs, after they finish work, they need to go and send Grab or do something, then maybe we're not treating their well-being well enough. One other thing is enough parking lots or not. And also, COVID is a very good time for us to talk about circumstances changing, and we need to do that, because if you remember back in COVID time, if you have children, you have this is top of our priority. When COVID was happening, it was during the first MCO, all the babysitters were closed. So you cannot have babysitting services, and if you don't have anyone to take care of children, it's going to be back of your mind, and then you'll be damn stressed You're not able to go and come out of your work. So welfare is a very, very big topic. I will go back to the original statement. There are always things that we can do better to address the welfare of doctors. And because circumstances change, it's not very easy to say we are ready for any circumstance. But we have to because human resource are our KKM, are the healthcare industry's most important asset. And if we don't take care of them, the healthcare industry cannot function. Yep, I'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Sean. Right, Guo Jeng, your thoughts on this topic?
Well, do you think the government and public management are doing enough? No, they're not doing enough. But if you're gonna wait for them to do something about it, it will never come. Yes, so a lot of times, that pothole in your taman, how many years already is not fixed? If you wait for the government, you grow up, you get married, you have kids, grandkids, your grandmother have your parents become a grandkid, that pothole is still there. So yeah, so sometimes, of course, we fight. Thankful for people like Sean. They went in the thing, go to Shaw Malls, MMA, and I think there's also an issue also that a lot of doctors also, they don't join MMA or they don't join all these organizations. So people are fighting for you. If everyone joins, we look at the membership. That if there is enough people joining, let's say all these organizations, let's say there's MMA student and all that sort of thing, and if the government look, this is potential 20,000 votes, and because all these 20,000 votes scattered throughout the country, do something about it, then there is some political pressure. But if you look at the MMA roles, I don't know, Sean, what's the MMA roles right now? What's the membership roles? Do we have 15, like what?
15,000?
Huh?
15,000.
15,000 is it? But it's not the total number of doctors that are in the country, right?
95,000.
Yeah. So if I'm a government official, I say, hey, you only represent 20% of the thing. See, the other doctors not complaining. What are you talking about? So again, all these things are very important. sorry, there are things that we can do for ourselves. Okay, sometimes you want to wait for the government for something to happen. It's not going to happen. So there are things we do for ourselves. Of course, in sometimes in UM we have a bit more resources, so we just organize a houseman training program. Ask them, this is how you take a history, please do this, or PPLO, please do this, and then the house officers enjoy themselves. We hopefully the on-calls will be much better from now on. But this one is it's totally an initiative of the department, so we can't be waiting. There's also there are things we cannot change, but there are things, of course, some things change, they take a long time. So please join your organizations, join your MMA, join your MMA student, so that people can see, like, look, there are that many people that we're representing, and please take us seriously. If you are not a member, then like Sean, it's like what, 95,000 and only 15% of 15,000 of 95,000 is like, hey, you're not representing anybody lah. Okay, so think some things are important. Then there are also the other things: being kind to your colleagues, show up for work, don't MC and everyone else has to cover your work. If you don't know, tell people. If you don't get the scan, there are things that we can do for ourselves and change for ourselves. And I think a lot of times, if you talk to your MOs, you talk to your specialists. If you don't know, you ask. The majority of them, of course, some are McLennan, they'll just go and scold you. But the majority of them, if you ask them, tell them, I say, like, hey boss, sometimes I don't, it's like I feel you're a bit too harsh. I think the majority of them will actually were like, okay, sorry guys, I'll tone down a bit, or a bad day today, I'll try. Because a lot of us have went through the old system, and nobody enjoys it. Nobody likes being shouted at. It's a core fact. Nobody shouts at. But because it becomes, as Christal said, it becomes normalized. So after a while, we all go into the system thinking that we will change the system. But the fact of the matter is, if you stay in the system long enough, the system changes you. Everybody starts off like, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that. But after, let's be honest with ourselves, if you've been here long enough, then after that, as you move out the ranks, you're not going to be house officers or medical students forever. One day you'll be house officers. One day you're no longer the first poster, and you're now the sixth poster. And then now all these second posters keep on MC. I can tell you, was like, I try not to scold people, but now then MC, you'll start like, all your fangs and claws will all come out already. So in life, we say it's like, so help your seniors break the cycle by not irritating them, and also help each other. I think that is a very important thing. The government definitely is not doing enough. They are not planning, and if you wait for them to do the right thing, it may never come. Yeah.
Thanks for your thoughts, Guo Jeng. So for the group discussion, I would like to pose a more specific question, perhaps to everyone who had. So focusing on the mental illness side of things, what can we do better to sort of make the system a more conducive place, perhaps for doctors to have a better coping system with their mental health? Yeah. Any suggestions or thoughts on that?
Yeah, maybe I'll step in first. This is like my field, right? But yeah, number one, self-care. Self-care is very important. Need to care for yourself. If you do CPR, you know the mnemonic. It starts with the danger. You need to care for yourself. Make sure you're not in a dangerous place before you start doing your other steps. So you are most important, and you need to go first. Now, what happens? What happens if a pothole appears, right? If a pothole appears, use GJ as an example. What do you do? Unfortunately, the first coping strategies, you need to calm yourself down. This one very important. But we're not going to put aside. We're going to talk a bit about the more structural, systemic, what can we do kind of a situation. So what can you do? Number one, you need to voice out. You need to speak out about it. Because if you don't speak out, if you don't complain, nobody's going to know. And it's going to happen again and again and again. So you need to speak out. But who do you speak to? Do you just jump straight to social media? Do you just viral gun and then name and shame? maybe let's not go that drastic first lah. So I'm going to tell you two ways, the internal way and the external way. Internal, of course, you go through your hospital, you complain to your HO leader, you complain to your MO in charge, specialist in charge, head of department. If all this don't work, you speak to your pengarah hospital. There is a hierarchical kind of steps that can be done, and if you do it, most of the time it can be done. So it's very important for us to do that lah. Now there are other ways that we can do through KKM. One of these things is what I call CSPA. I don't recommend it as a first line because it's super effective. You just make complaint, within a few days you're just going to get response from them, and it's KKM Central who are going to investigate. It will go straight to you'll settle the root cause of the problem lah. And of course, we talk about the external roles. So we have got organizations like the Malaysian Medical Association. Thanks, Guo Jeng, for the shout out. SCOMO's section concerning house officers, medical officers, and specialists. And also MMI itself, who are doing a great job. Can please, you don't need to. I mean, like, it's not like joining a union, but joining an organization that can actually voice out, because you are stronger as a collective, would be helpful. There are, in terms of how to prepare yourself for housemanship, because the well prepared you are, the better prepared you are, the more chances of you being able to withstand things, right? Do your homework. So choose which hospital you want to go to, speak to people, make sure that. And then we are going to come to what MMA has got to offer, is that we do have got a house officer guidebook, which you can actually get it if you sign up as a member. But it has got good stuff, including resources where to find help and this kind of things. MMA has got this helpline called HelpDoc, HELPDOC, where if you need anything, you can actually just contact us. Sorry, it turned into an MMA marketing session, but I'll pass it back to you.
Thanks, Sean. Right, so I was told that we have to, cut short this group discussion and quickly move on to the Q&A. Right, so you have all posted questions on Slido, but I don't think we have time to go through all of them, so I have to, sorry, but I have to pick some of them now, right? So, one of the interesting questions I think we didn't discuss is this, being harsh, so question from, I don't know from who, but being harsh doesn't only occur in housemanship. It is how we've been treated since young in school. It's quoted, Asian culture tends to be more conducive in, perhaps to reword, in our Asian culture, perhaps we think that being harsh is a more effective way to thrive in tough environments. So how true do you think that is? Any thoughts? And tying it into our hospital working environment, all of us being Asians.
You know how in the exams, like you get 99%, like what happened to that 1%? I think most of you in medical school would be in that category of people like, hey, how come only number 2 in the class, in the top class? What happened? How come didn't get number 1? So yes, it's true that to a large extent that this is in the culture, but at the end of the day, are you going to perpetuate the same culture? I think that's the question. You cannot change your grandmother, you cannot change your parents and how they deal with things and how they talk to you, but we can change the way we talk to our house officers and our colleagues, your nurses, your PPKs. Yeah, I
agree with Guo Jeng actually. Because this culture is very embedded in our system because we are from Asia, we are Asians. So, but I think we should, whatever the case is, we should use something or a solution that is best fits for our situation or for the current context. Because, for example, like things that we used to accept, things that were culturally accepted back then, for example, like slavery or war, right now we think it's absurd, it's something unthinkable. So I think at the end of the day, whether it's our parents or our bosses or some other authoritarian figure, we responsible for our own lives, for our own decisions. As an adult, we should be able to discern or decipher what is the best, best solution for us, what is the best decision that we can make for ourselves, and not having to be conformed by societal expectations and values if those values do not resonate with who we are. So yeah.
Generational trauma is very true. They even made 2 movies of it. Look at Turning Red, look at Encanto. These are filmmakers today reflecting or just bringing out the things that they have gone through in the past. And these are, when you watch this movie, some of us can actually resonate with it because it is exactly what we went through, like the Asian culture kind of thing. Of course, Latinx culture for the Encanto. Now, just want to touch on this very quickly. Times has changed, circumstances has changed. Previously, 10 years ago, Facebook was the rage. 15 years ago, Friendster was the rage. Then Facebook, now it's TikTok. Things change, expectations change. We need to adapt ourselves to the time. And like GJ mentioned, it may be cool to scold people last time. It's not cool right now. And it's not cool to in the future as well. So let's adapt ourselves and adjust to the new normal.
I just want to add one thing I wanted to add earlier, but sometimes your seniors, not all seniors hate you. Sometimes a lot of your seniors, like MOs, even specialists, if you do your work, they are very important and good allies. So if you make, those McLennan fellas, McLennan MOs, I'm sure they have stepped on someone's, if they are McLennan to house officers, they probably have stepped on a fellow MO's foot, they have stepped on a specialist's foot before. So people are actually gunning for them also. So, if let's say you feel like, if there's a nice specialist you can talk to, you can actually talk to them, hey, this MO is quite abusive, always, make fun of people's appearance and all that sort of thing. And they'll very well actually take action. Of course, make sure you get, because if not, after that complaint, all the house, everyone are gonna, okay. So, but make sure you do your work. You will actually find important allies.
Right. Next question. We are picking on this. I think it's something that most medical students have experienced. Perhaps. What do you think about the beginning of the toxic culture that we talk about? Many have experienced that they are not allowed to attach or join rounds, maybe due to the high working load that they are rejected from their learning experience as a medical student. So do you think that this is the start of a toxic culture? Then it just goes on to a vicious cycle.
You want to join rounds? Come and join my rounds in University Malaya. I asked my University Malaya students, come join my rounds. Oh, I got BT, bedside teaching by doctor, and then you all disappeared. I will be more than happy to take you for my rounds. I think joining rounds are very important because that's when you see raw cases, new cases. I always encourage people to join my rounds, be it medical students or elective students. If you ever come to, if you ever done an elective or you're one of my medical students. So I have more problems, maybe it's in other universities, I have more problems trying to get people to join my rounds because they tend to be a bit long than people don't want to join my rounds.
Sean, Christal, any thoughts?
I don't think anyone is going to reject you from joining around. I mean, there are going to be certain circumstances. So, for example, the patient is involved is maybe a student or something like that, or VVIP, then maybe you say you can't join today's round. But in general, I have never experienced any. But again, I work in tertiary hospitals where people are very keen in teaching, right? So most of the lecturers, consultants, they are very happy to get people involved in rounds.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with Guo Jeng and Sean on this. Based on my experience, I think most of the doctors are very welcoming for us to join the rounds. Yeah, and I mean, of course, maybe they were not allowed to join because it's a confidential case, or it's a student or something like that. But otherwise, I think my experience was quite good.
But that being said, I know probably the person who said this is probably from one of the private medical universities, because because they are attached to different hospitals. Let's say like MSU to Klang and Cyberjaya to HKL. So sadly, some of the specialists, they're like, oh, you're not my peep, you're not my UKM peeps, or you're not my UM peeps, so oh, you can't follow my rounds. So I think unfortunately this shouldn't be the way, because the university already have, for a private university to use the hospital, they already paid the levy, so they should be able to utilize to the maximum the full teaching and learning experience that anyone should be expected to get. So yeah, I think this one is probably something that should be highlighted to the dean or the head of program, so that they can take some actions about these things.
Just one thing very quickly. If it's because of COVID-19 pandemic that causes, maybe people say let's reduce the amount of people involved in rounds, then that one, I think there's a force majeure involved. There's something that we cannot control. That one. Sorry. But apart from that, I think most people would be happy unless it's like cases like what GJ mentioned just now.
Great points. Very quickly, one last question. Do you think that the decline in quality of junior doctors is largely due to the reduced quality of undergraduate education or the training program for housemanship, if there's any formal ones being given here?
Oh, can this one? I love to take this one. Yeah, everyone always claims that their generation is the best. But I always like to tell my students this story I had. Okay, so 15 years ago, you know how you like to say, oh, how good we are. I was going in to sit for my MBBS finals. The friend next to me, he's like, hey, Guo Jeng, how to interpret the ABG? It's like, dude, we are going into the finals in 5 minutes and you're asking me ABG is something so basic. Now he's some big shot subspecialist somewhere and all that sort of thing. So I will not name him or tell you what he's big. He is some big institution he is in, but oh sorry, gender person. But yeah, we all started from somewhere. But I think what gets on the nerves of the senior people is, even after a while, it's like, I saw you in month 1 and month 3, still the same sort of there's no drive to improve, and that is what gets to people. If you make a genuine opportunity to improve, and people can see the improvement, I don't think there'll be an issue. Look, there's no such thing as one generation is better than the other. It's the times change. Back then, it's like you had to run to the library, look up the hard copy of Harrison's to find the answer. Now everything's at the tip of the finger. The issue is how you utilize all these tools. There's all these calculators that's on, medical calculators, all this online material. Then the house officer, sorry boss, don't know lah. Tak buat. It's like all these things are at your fingertips and you're not using it. So if you learn about it, improve yourself, use it, utilize it, use all these calculators. Your boss was like, oh, very good. Oh, you already calculated the Hasblat-4 score for this patient. Oh, ABCD school, you calculate curve 65, you calculate for a patient. They'll be very happy. You don't just cut and paste the entry from yesterday, today, and oh, my job is done. It's like you see a pneumonia patient, you calculate the curve 65, and oh, patient had the AF, you calculate the Hasblat, and then you put the score is this, the risk of stroke in your entry. Your specialist will be very happy with you. The tools are there. You have to utilize it.
Initiatives are very, very important coming from ourselves. Yeah. Yes, Sean, sorry, I can't. Anything you want to say?
Who says there's a drop in quality? Who says there's a drop in quality in terms of generation? Actually, there is not. But as like what Guo Jeng mentioned, there must be an effort lah. We must. I mean, we've worked with juniors before lah. If you have some people who are just like a bicycle, they just no interest in improving themselves, then sometimes it's a bit difficult not to get upset about things lah. But if you can see the actual effort you put in, you see the work that you put in, we will be happy to guide, teach, and also spend more time with you.
Thanks, Sean. Christal?
Yeah, I mean, I cannot really tell if there's a decline or not in terms of the quality of healthcare, because I cannot really compare with the previous generation. And also, context is different, you know, in different times. So I don't think it's fair for us to compare. But if there is a decline in the quality of healthcare, I think one of the reasons I would say could be because of insufficient trainers. Because I was reading an article and it talks about the imbalance between trainer and also mentee ratio. Right now, medical colleges, they should have their own sufficient tutors, lecturers, and infrastructure. But this is not the case, especially in, you know, like private medical schools, mushrooming. They use, you know, I mean, medical training is not just about classrooms or using mannequins or, you know, robotics. They need their own hospitals to learn with real patients, learn how to treat patients. But unfortunately, the case here, most medical institutions, they have to share public hospitals with other universities in order to cut costs. But in overseas, most medical colleges, they have their own hospitals. So yeah, insufficient trainers, too many medical schools, too many medical graduates. So there's an imbalance.
Then when you go up higher up the ladder, there are too many house officers to one lecturer. I mean, GJ, how many, you know, what's the ratio like during your time and now?
As in house officers, sorry, I didn't get your question.
House officers to specialist ratio.
So I don't like I said, I don't like to mention about my time lah, but in my whole hospital, in Kuala Terengganu, there were 55 house officers because it was a centralized CME. So everybody's name is there. So in October 2007, 15 years ago, there were 55 house officers in the whole of Hospital Kuala Terengganu. But I said that the work wasn't, maybe HKI and Klang at the time was bad, but Terengganu was intense, not so intense because we have 3 persons per ward, that sort of thing. Longer working hours, less intensity. Can't be compared lah. There was no, in my time as a houseman, there was no cure for hepatitis C. If you were asked a question, you want to get Hep B or Hep C, you want to get Hep B because you're less likely to get HCC. Now there's a cure for Hep C. You want to get Hep C if you're going to get needle-stick injury infection. So times have changed. Yeah. Oh, if anyone of you have a specialist, you give me their names. I probably can read out all the mistakes that because it's a small world. Back then it's a very small world. We know all the silly things that you have done or something like that. Everyone has skeletons in their closets in medicine. No one is perfect. Everyone has skeletons in their closet. You give me a specialist name, I'll tell you what he has done. As a medical student, as an MO, as a houseman, everyone has stories. Nobody's perfect. I wouldn't say, you know, quality has dropped at all. It's the same. It's always the human IQ has not changed. It's just the environment, the tools available and all, and also patients' expectations. Last time in the hospital, everyone, okay, fracture, you take the x-ray, then they walk off, you know, hey, why are you walking off? Oh, never mind, I'm going to the BOMO. I just want the x-ray to confirm that there is a fracture. Now everyone expects to have the orthopedic surgeon see them in 5 minutes and the surgery by tomorrow. So pressure has, you know, 10 years ago, nobody gets complaint. You get a complaint maybe once a year. Get a lawsuit, wow, once every 5 years, then the whole hospital knows about it. Now it's like every department has one every month or something like that. So things have totally changed. The environment, landscape has totally changed from 15 years ago. Yeah, you ask me, will I do my housemanship here now? No.
Well, on that note itself, unfortunately, we have to wrap up the debate segment today. I think it's very, very eye-opening discussion. A lot of you, the 3 of you brought in very good points, each from your own experiences and from what you've observed. I'm very humbled to be here to join the discussion as well. I think there's actually still a lot to unpack, but unfortunately, again, time is against us. So I have to wrap up the discussion. And thank you for your questions from the audience. And again, not enough time to go through all of them. Once again, thank you to all 3 of our speakers, Guo Jeng, Sean, and Christal. Amazing points. Before we wrap up the debate segment today, I would like to pass it to Guo Jeng to talk about the AGELESS project for a little bit. Yeah, while waiting for preparation, oh, great. Okay, cool. Yep, Guo Jeng, the floor is yours. But you're muted. Right. While waiting, perhaps I can just wrap up on what we've talked about to summarize.
Sorry.
Oh, great.
Sorry.
Okay.
Hi, I'm AGELESS, which is the aging longitudinal study, and we are having a project. In fact, it's our ongoing project. So one of the studies we are doing is transforming cognitive creativity to later life sufficiency. Of course, it's organized by my supervisor, Professor Tan Mo Pin. So we have needs. So these are partner universities: Monash, UPM, UTM, UKM, Swinburne, University Technology, Petronas. So what we do is we do free house screening, and then we recruit our elderly patients and we follow them up once a year to see how they are doing and what is going on in their lives. So on and off, we do mass screening from August until the end of the year. Almost every week we'll be having mass screening. What we need is enumerators. So there'll be 50 participants, but because there are a lot of things to do, we need 20 to 30 enumerators, and we will let you know the places in the future. And this is free, flexible, no obligations. Come if you're free that weekend and you like to take part in our activities. So this is what they do. This is the MOCA score. Okay, they have to screen the patient. This was during the COVID, so they had to stop and then they come in, registration, and then the questionnaires, asking the patients the questionnaires, testing their eye and all that sort of thing, blood taking also. So this was in Kluang Mersing in 2021. This was in Penang 2022, and this was Ipoh 2022. So these are the different mass screening. So for all participants, they will get a certificate. We provide food and transport, a small token of appreciation. We also train you how to do all the questionnaires, and so there'll be invaluable experience, and there'll be a vast array of networking opportunities. Yeah. So we are looking for enumerators. You can find us on our Facebook, AGELESS Research MY, or you can contact Dr. Gananath, who's from UPM. I think he was also a MMI member previously. That's his number. Okay, so I'll put it on the chat box also later. Thank you very much, guys.
Right. And for that, thank you, everyone. I'd like to pass it back to MMI.
All right. Thank you so much for the insightful session, everyone. Basically, this session couldn't go any more interesting, like how Dr. Sean mentioned about the factors that that actually contribute to stress in our healthcare systems, that actually we need serious attention. And also Christine mentioned regarding the statistics that supports the burnout among healthcare workers and how long working hours contribute to that. And I also like the point that Dr. Tan mentioned that every doctor's role matters here in order for us to create a change. So before we end our session for today, let's take a very quick group photo, please. So I hope everyone can open their camera.